The Newcastle City Council is being sued for approving plans in 1973 to build extensions to the Newcastle Workers' Club. And the Workers' Club is being sued for allegedly providing unsafe premises for patrons.
I think it will eventuate to be a landmark. There's never been a case like it in Australia.
The Newcastle Workers' Club collapsed during the 1989 earthquake, killing 8 people and injuring many more. 10 of those people who were injured have just commenced legal proceedings in the Newcastle Supreme Court, seeking compensation. The action has been lodged on their behalf by the Legal Aid Commission.
They've all received various injuries. They are extensive, ranging from permanent disability to shock.
Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton was informed of the legal action this morning.
I don't want to in any way to give the impression that I'm standing in the way of people pursuing their legal rights. I think they should do that, and whilst it's our advice that we have no liability, I don't want to stand in their way in any way.
However, the Lord Mayor warned people to check their legal costs before they proceed. He remembers the legal aid bill charged to earthquake victims after the coronial inquiry.
I was extremely angry with legal aid because they charged the people they represented, and those people couldn't afford $800 or $900. It wasn't the whole cost, I know, but those people did not expect to have to pay, and in fact I had those amounts withdrawn.
Rumours have abounded for weeks that several players have been approached by other Winfield Cup clubs, and the latest to join that list is towering second rower Paul Harrigan.
Yeah, well, I've had a couple of feelers from East and West, and it's just going through the negotiations part now, and I just have to wait and see. I'm pretty confident of staying here in Newcastle, and I'd like to.
Playing in brilliant fashion in the past weeks, Harrigan will be a trump card for the Knights as they try to arrest a form slump that has seen the first grade plummet to 13th place on the ladder. Penrith will rely on their super halfback Greg Alexander for Sunday's match, as the Panthers will be missing Mark Guy and John Cartwright to the Test team, something that disappoints Harrigan.
They're two powerful forwards, but on the other hand, I wish that they were there because I'm pretty confident of us going well on the weekend. It'd be good to beat them with a full complement in their side.
Ashley Gordon returns from injury, but the Flash is less than confident on a dicky ankle.
If it turns like it did before, you're back to square one, so hopefully it won't happen again.
Coach David Waite tried some positional changes against the Sharks and promises more moves.
We moved a couple of people last week, and I'm sure the crowd will notice that there'll be some slight changes again this week, all designed for the football team to benefit over the next 4 or 5 games.
One of the candidates for the position as 1992 Knights coach, Waite is yet to taste success in first grade with the club, but it's the club he's thinking of first and foremost.
We're working on 2 points. We need them desperately, don't we? I suppose you could say it'd be nice for me too, but that's not the important thing. For me, the important thing is that the football team improves on what we set out to do when we started against Brisbane, and I think that's basically on course, as is the club.
The 9-kilometre run attracted 350 athletes and the setting was idyllic. The weather couldn't have been better. The course was from the Shoal Bay Country Club to Nelson Bay and back, and the field boasted some pretty good athletes. But David Forbes seems to have a mortgage on the event, his win today making it the 8th time that he has won the race. His time today was 29 minutes and 52 seconds, and he continued his domination of local events after winning last week's Coastal Capers run. The first female across the line was Carol Horn in a time of 34 minutes 57 seconds.
Two-year-old Samantha Cotton and her 1-year-old brother Randall are like all healthy children. They enjoy a game in their front yard. But their mother, Lorraine Ward, fears that with their house in the shadow of the Pasminco lead smelter in Bullaroo, the children are slowly being poisoned. In a survey by the Hunter Public Health Unit of lead levels in the blood of 135 children in the area, Samantha and Randall have so far recorded the highest readings. Samantha has 36 micrograms of lead per 100 millilitres of blood and Randall 30. Anything above the 25 mark in Australia is considered cause for concern, with brain and other organ disorders a possibility. After finding out the results yesterday, Ms Ward says she's worried about her children's future.
I was shocked at first, like there's nothing they can really do about it. And you don't know, you've got endless worry because you don't know if there's got any damage to their bodies or anything until they get older.
Dr John Stevenson, the director of the Public Health Unit, says although not all the blood samples have been done, the results are not as bad as he expected.
I think probably a general description was that they've been fairly encouraging. That's not very much comfort to those parents who have children with blood leads above normal. But fortunately, we've only found 3 or 4 of those at the moment.
As part of the program to prevent lead contamination, Dr Stevenson is advising parents to watch their children's diets.
It is important that they have a reasonable diet with reasonable fibre content, that they don't miss meals, etc.
Dr Stevenson says symptoms of lead contamination don't become apparent until the levels climb over 40. So, with Ms Ward's children's readings at 36, he says there's no need for panic. But that's cold comfort for Lorraine Ward. She says she wants to get her children out of this street, but for the moment, she feels trapped.
We can't really move because no one would want to buy the place after they find out that what effect the lead has on the children. I won't be having any more children while we're living here, not now that I know what's happened to these 2.
The trailer was apparently at full height when it slammed into the overhead conveyor belt between New Vale Colliery and Munmora Power Station at about 10 a.m. The impact ripped the trailer away from the prime mover, which travelled for several dozen metres on its own. The 22-year-old driver was embarrassed but unhurt. With the trailer wedged solidly against the conveyor belt, police were forced to close the New Vale Road while a couple of crane crews attempted to dislodge the obstacle. A police spokesman said the conveyor belt hadn't been used to carry coal for some weeks and the accident wasn't expected to affect power production. Damage to the conveyor section was slight. The road was reopened about an hour after the incident.
The Health Services Minister Ron Phillips was first alerted to the Hunters' budgetary problems last month after a financial management team reviewed the operation. Members of the board met with the minister in Sydney last night.
The management control systems up in the Hunter during a situation of change have been strained, but unfortunately the management controls have not been up to keeping control of the health costs in the Hunter.
The head of the Hunter Area Health Service, Dr Owen James, accepts the minister's criticism. The Hunter Area Health Service has an annual budget of $348 million. It exceeded this by about $5 million during the last financial year, and it's hemorrhaging at a rate of $500,000 a week this year.
If there is a blame, it is to be put on me. The responsibility I'll carry. Now, we were doing a thing last year which no one's ever done before. Get over an earthquake and commission a hospital.
The minister would not be drawn on whether a hospital in the Hunter will be closed.
I've taken a position to date to ensure that the Hunter Board and the Hunter Management have every opportunity to explore all options as to how to bring the cost hemorrhaging that's happening up there under control, and I'm waiting on a report from them.
The board has been given until midday on Friday to come up with a rescue package. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Graham Park was awash with big game atmosphere today as thousands packed the stands to watch some of Australia's finest young players go up against the touring English side. Unfortunately, the home team didn't rise to the occasion. The Poms had superior forward power and combination. They used both to open the scoring. The energetic English pack began to dominate proceedings, and some slick work close to the ruck brought about try number 2. The Aussies were frustrated, and it began to show. The English weren't about to be subdued, and with things going all their way, even the Australian photographers weren't safe. The Poms led 21-0 at the break and wrapped up the game 36 points to 3.
While Vasey appeared tranquil this morning, there was great excitement in a small classroom at the local school. Every Vasey pupil turned out to meet the governor.
You can be a governor from any occupation. It could be a man or it could be a woman, provided you lead a reasonable life and you show that you want to help people. That's what it takes. So there could be a governor here in this room. Who wants to be governor?
There is.
Wow. We've got lots of applications.
After a musical interlude, the governor opened the school's new shade house. It's part of a statewide Rotary project giving students the opportunity to nurture tree seedlings for planting. While the construction is small, the wider purpose it will serve was not lost on both the governor and his young admirers.
Each and every one of you can see that little tree that you're potting and planting in the ground. You'll see it grow to the size of the trees that we see behind us here. And you're going to grow with them. And you're going to make a better Australia through doing that.
Then it was off to Paterson to meet still more fans who'd patiently waited all day for the visit. And like their Vasey counterparts, the importance of trees was not lost on Paterson's pupils.
When I get emotional, the bush is sacred. Ancient life will fade away. Over the hill they go, killing another mountain. Gotta fill the quota, can't go slow. Huge machinery wiping out the scenery. One big swipe like a shearer's blow. Rip, rip.
Mark Sargent came prepared with his own broken nose, so the official launch was a painful experience. He wound up looking like Cronulla skipper Gavin Miller, quite appropriate after his recent tangle with the Sharks.
It was a head clash early in the game with Michael Speechley that did the damage, but one of my Kangaroo teammates, Mark McGaw, gave me a touch-up later on and just made sure of the job, mate, yeah.
Red Nose Day is a fun idea, but there is also much to be serious about. Last year, almost $5 million was raised, 190,000 of it in the Hunter. But cot death research is still just scratching the surface.
We still need to find better method of monitoring the high-risk baby and also finding a simple, cheap and reliable method of screening high-risk babies.
Half of all the money raised in the area will stay here to fund counselling and medical facilities. Mark and Jenny Richards are proof that the counselling works. They lost a child to cot death but have found the courage to try again.
when you do make that decision, you need to have support of other people who've been through it, and you also need the support of doctors who can advise you exactly what position you're in and what sort of monitoring services are available, how your child can be assessed after it's born as to whether it's at risk or not.
The noses go on sale tomorrow, with the official Red Nose Day scheduled for August 30. They've already started bobbing up in the most unusual places. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
David Waite has been with the Newcastle Knights since their entry into the Winfield Cup in 1988 as reserve grade coach and development officer, a factor that worked in his favour when the board of directors of the Newcastle Knights made their decision last night. For the articulate schoolteacher, however, the past couple of days has been harder than any coaching assignment.
Particularly the last couple of days has been a little anxious from my point of view and my family's point of view. But that goes with the business of first grade coaching. There is pressure.
Waite attributes his rapid rise through the ranks to the same desire in reaching the top he showed as a player, and to the city he has adopted as his home.
The town knows that the team was built on players that were young and had plenty of toughness, plenty of tomorrows, and that could tackle, and they came here for opportunities. And I was part of the building process, and I probably see myself now as someone who's given a similar sort of opportunity in the top grade, and I hope to grab it with both hands.
And Waite will have a head start in his new position. Plenty of support from the people that really count, the players.
Well, I think it's a good result for the club, and I know that most of the players will be, virtually all of the players will be very happy with the appointment.
While a win has eluded Waite so far in first grade, he's obviously optimistic about the future.
The performances haven't been doom and gloom stuff. We tried to change a couple of things subtly in the Brisbane game, and we've been working on those. We need to do a couple of more hours work on a couple of other aspects of the game from last week, and we hope we've turned those around for this week, and we can take South Sydney as the start of something very new for Newcastle.
The Knights are almost certain to appoint Mark Sargent as development officer along with Keith Onslow, and former Canberra captain Dean Lance is favoured to fill the reserve grade coach's position.
The process of the inquiry was outlined to interested parties by Commissioners Woodward and Cleland. Representatives of Chemplex, the company wanting to build the aluminium fluoride plant, were told, along with government agencies and residents groups, to prepare submissions to be heard by the inquiry, which begins next month. Plans for the proposal were announced late last year, and since then, Chemplex has been preparing an environmental impact study for the project on an obsolete site on Kooragang. The output of raw materials will go to the Hunters aluminium smelters. The City Council has raised concerns about emission levels, runoffs, dust and fallout, along with the potential hazards of transporting sulphuric acid needed for the process. Further submissions will be gathered during the month.
Homeowners with mortgages at the Newcastle Permanent Building Society will have more money in their pockets from September the 1st. Interest rates on existing loans for owner-occupied premises will drop by 0.5% to 12.5%.
Our existing borrowers will be charged less than those of any other home finance organisation in Australia.
A $60,000 loan over 25 years would attract savings of $22.80 a month, and anyone with a loan of $80,000 would have a reduced interest bill of $30.40 a month. Frank Wotherspoon believes the worst of the recession has passed. He believes a reduction in interest rates will restore confidence in the local economy and kickstart the construction industry in Newcastle.
We recognise that the construction industry is quietening down, that this reflects the declining amount of work that's being done in earthquake repairs.
Other major lending institutions are charging 13% for existing home loans. Frank Wotherspoon believes they will not follow the lead set by the Newcastle Permanent Building Society. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Under the government's aggregation plan, regional television broadcasters will have a further reach from December this year. As well as serving the Hunter, NBN will extend its coverage to the North Coast and New England areas. The $17 million undertaking requires new studio and transmission equipment. The latest arrival at NBN's Newcastle studios is a state-of-the-art automated video cassette system. It comprises of two American-built Ampex ACR 225 tape machines, along with another integrated long play machine. Each of the ACR 225s can be loaded with up to 256 32-minute cassettes, with a storage capability of 12,000 commercials. The machines can be used for simultaneous recordings, playback and editing. Digitised video and audio signals ensure distortion-free playback. NBN technical staff are busily installing the new equipment, which will play an integral role in the station's expansion. Scenes such as this march last Tuesday seem to have made no impact on the Health Department in its decision to close Wallsend Hospital. With public feeling on the issue running high, anger spilled into City Hall, with today's announcement prompting a stinging reaction from the Lord Mayor. Alderman McNaughton also said the government's decision reflected its indifference to the Hunters' needs and came as no thanks for the efforts and sacrifices that were made after the earthquake to bring the John Hunter Hospital online ahead of schedule. He disputed the government's rationale of blaming cost blowouts for the closure. The man everybody wants to speak to is the Hunter Area Health Services appointed administrator. Trades Hall is concerned with gauging the inevitable staff reductions.
Our experience with administrators has not been a good one. They're generally given a brief from a government to do a hatchet job to achieve quick results. And our experience is that you have very little room for negotiation and compromise in dealing with an administrator because he simply is not given the flexibility to be flexible.
BHP Austral battled hard for their opening goal, which signalled an avalanche, and it came just before half-time. After repeated corners, one came off. Lowe's shot hitting the crossbar, rebounding to his feet, and he made no mistake to give Austral a 1-0 lead at the break. From then on, the locals dominated, and it was Lowe again who gave a super ball to Dean McGuirter. He found Howard Tredenick inside the area unmarked, and he had no trouble in scoring number 2. And again Lowe, playing in his last game for the club before returning to Marconi, laid it on to Namov, who was crudely brought down in the area and a penalty was awarded. Michael Bugard made no mistake. Now, for the purists who had turned up a little early to see the Jones boy trot out the red and whites to wrap up the minor premiership, they must have wondered whether they were at the right ground. In front of them, 18 lovely ladies having a game of footy. No harm in that, as the ladies' touch football competition is very strong. But this was different. No touch, stop, play the ball here. Instead, slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Full-on tackle football. And with every sergeant-like hit, a roar of approval from the boys beyond the fence. It's not new as there are leagues in Canberra, Wollongong and Queensland, and the organisers are hoping to expand the interest. But why tackle football instead of netball?
They come from all over Sydney and they play touch and all that, but they enjoy the game. They want to play for the fun of it, and that's just, that's just the game. It's contact and they enjoy it.
And the girls have been receiving the very best of help.
Mario Fennick came to our training session last Tuesday and taught the girls how to tackle, and Brad Mackay's coming in a couple of weeks, and maybe Andrew Eddinghausen too. So.
Always keen to break into a male-oriented field, Fiona is confident about the future.
We want it all over New South Wales and hopefully all over Australia in a couple of years. So, yeah, Women's League is here to stay.